fire maker. And Jesus. I was like, I gotta work on this. So Jace, you gave me to get some good stuff, and I'll get working on that. So thank you all for coming and choosing to worship at St. Peter's Lutheran Church on this Reformation Sunday and on the 125th anniversary of this congregation. There is much to celebrate, and Genevieve even helped us out by scheduling her baptism today. And also we have, again, food and cake afterwards. Please stick around. So it's this huge celebration, right? And then at the same time, our gospel lesson from John 8 is not so celebratory in its tone or its context. And you're always allowed to follow along, so if you want to flip to your gospel lesson there from John 8. And this is the assigned gospel lesson every year on this particular Sunday in October. And I wonder why. Why do we hear this story each year? I mean, if you read along with it, it kind of looks like Jesus picks a fight with his fellow Jews. It sounds like Jesus is looking for an argument with people who already believe in him. What is it about this story that we need to hear each and every year on Reformation Sunday? All right, so here's the first question. So what is it that Jesus and those who believed in him and followed him start sparring over? What's the debate? What are they upset about? It gets to sin, but where do they start at first? What does Jesus say to them that kind of raises their hackles a little bit?
Slaves. They're not
He
slaves.
calls them slaves, right? And he seems to imply that they are not free. Ignore for a moment the irony and humor where Jesus' followers protest that they have never been slaves to anyone. Well, except for that time when we were all slaves to the Egyptians. Or that one period where the Assyrians took us over and deported a bunch of us. Or that one time we were conquered by the Babylonians and they burned down our temple. Or that time right now, where the people of Israel are conquered and occupied by the armies of Rome. Other than that, we've never been slaves. So, the people of Israel have rarely ever not been slaves. Except this isn't what Jesus really wants to focus on. And Sally gets exactly the slavery that Jesus wants to bring to his followers' attention and to our attention is our slavery to sin. And this might be a more contentious point than even national politics or social issues. Sure, I imagine that we are all comfortable in this room admitting that we are not perfect, right? That we have made mistakes, that we have not loved our God or our neighbor as ourselves. Pretty comfortable with that, everybody? And yet, who here likes it when our sin is identified or pointed out to us? I'm seeing Michael right there. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I can attest to this because I am a sinner and I go through the same thing with you all. I'm a sinner, but I still don't want my sin pointed out to me. Recently, I was talking to a friend of mine who also happens to be a pastor about something that I had done that was bothering me. I don't know about this, but if this comes as a shock to you, pastors are sinners. Pastors also confess their sins. So these are things. And if I'm being really honest with you, what I really wanted to hear from my friend was to hear them say that what I did or said wasn't that big of a deal. Right? What I really wanted him to say was, oh, it's really not all that bad. That I was okay. And my friend helpfully confirmed that it sounded like I really messed up. That I had indeed sinned. This was not exactly what I wanted to hear, and yet it was probably what I needed to hear. My friend, the pastor, told me the truth. I believe it's Gloria Steinem said something to the effect of, the truth will set us free, but first it will make you angry. And I wonder if this is the point of the gospel lesson from John this morning. If this is the point of Reformation Sunday. If this is the point of church to some degree, is to remind us that we are sinners and that we have made mistakes, that we have hurt those around us by our actions, by our inactions, and by our words. Yes, at least partially, the Holy Scriptures and our communities of faith have the obligation and the responsibility to address and identify sin both in us as individuals and in our community. The Bible, Jesus, the church, has a responsibility to tell us the truth. And I want you all to hear this, and I'm lumping myself in on this. We are not okay. And yet this cannot be the whole message of the church or the Bible. It cannot be because Jesus tells his followers, you and me, in John chapter 8, that the truth will make you free. Just knowing that I am a sinner is not the end goal. Being convicted of my own sinfulness in ways that I have fallen short in loving God and loving others is not freeing. Quite the opposite. Being told the truth about my propensity to continually mess things up, and that I do the very things that I know that I should not, can drive me towards despair. It can make me feel hopeless, and it can make me question and devalue my worth as a person. So how can the truth of our brokenness be freeing? You remember just a couple minutes ago where my pastor friend who confronted me with my mistake and told me, yes, it was a sin, and yes, you are a sinner. My friend told me the truth, and yet the truth did not stop there. They said, Jim, you are a sinner. You have sinned. You will sin again. And Jesus Christ died on the cross and rose from the grave in order that your sins and the rest of the world are forgiven. He said, Jim Engel, child of God, God's grace is for you too. Jesus says to his followers, to me, to you, and to our desperate world, if the Son makes you free, you will be free indeed. The truth that is freeing is that we will make mistakes. We will hurt those around us, and we will hurt ourselves. And yet we are claimed through the waters of baptism and promised by Christ that there is nothing we can do, nothing we can say, nothing we can think that will ever render us unlovable or unwanted by our God. This is the gift of the gospel. This is the gift of Reformation Sunday. This is the gift of the church. We hear that we are not okay. And yet God's grace is for us in all our not-okayness. I believe that most of us have a suspicion deep down that we would be unlovable if others only knew what we had done, what we had thought, or what we had said. The truth is that God does know, and God still chooses to love you, love me, and love our world. And I wonder if this is one of the gifts of the church. By being known as a sinner, and yet still loved, and still valuable, and still precious to God, what does this free us and empower us to do with our lives and in our communities? Because we are both sinner and saint, baptized and forgiven, we can put down our need to appear perfect, right? We can put down the false, glowing glamour shot world of our social media profiles. We can let go of the toxic shame about our failures. We can stop tearing others down in order to hide our own inadequacies. If we are not okay, and still loved, and still wanted, and still saved and forgiven through Jesus Christ, how does that free us to live and be different in our world? If I am a sinner, and I am loved by God, what does this mean for my neighbor? They too are a sinner, and they too are loved by God. Who therefore is welcome in our church? Everyone. Who therefore is welcome at our baptismal font and at our communion table? Everyone. Who therefore is loved by God and can make a difference in the world? Everyone. Go in peace to share this good news. Thanks be to God and amen.